Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here. Today I'm going to do something just a little different. I know you guys have gotten used to me kind of doing the fake natty callouts, and today I want to do kind of the opposite. I want to take two individuals I chat with online who compete as naturals, who are being accused of not being naturals, particularly due to previous admissions of one cycle each. And I personally don't think the callouts are actually justified in this case. So I want to break that down for you guys just a little bit. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Alright, most of you know who these guys are already if you watch YouTube or you follow the natural bodybuilding world, or you know who the different prep coaches are out there. These individuals are Eric Helms, who's soon to be Dr. Eric Helms, and Alberto Nunez. Now these are both individuals that I have shouted out some of their work previously. I know I've referred people to Alberto's intermediate routine. I have quoted some of Eric's research in videos regarding protein intake and things. So they're generally good guys. They don't say very much that I disagree with. And I overall find most of their info to be pretty accurate and informative. I think there's a lot of overlap between what I say and what both of these individuals say. So as to this question of their natural status, now I've actually seen all this evidence firsthand long before anybody pointed it out to me, but people keep sending me links to this stuff, and that's to Eric Helms' Superdrol log from something like 2004, 2005. He did like a 6-week cycle of Superdrol, gained 5 pounds. And this is 2013, that's a minimum of 8 years ago. And then Alberto, there was a video admission of where he had said he did a primobolan cycle early on. As I've covered over and over and over, and you've seen other very experienced older gear users on YouTube, namely Jerry Ward with Bios 3 Training, and you've seen Mark Lobliner discuss this from the Tiger Fitness, of saying that you do not keep your gains if you come off. That gear is almost a life sentence. That if you do 4 or 5 or 6 cycles of gear and you come off, it might take 6 months, it might take a year, it might take 2 years, but you will lose all of your gains. It's the people who stay on for a prolonged period of time. And I don't mean cycles, I'm talking about people who blast and cruise or just flat stay on for 3, 4, 5, 6 years straight and go way above their natural limits. Those guys change their set points, but they don't keep all their gains. If they come off, they're still going to lose 20 or 30 pounds of muscle. But they're going to be able to maintain a muscle that's bigger than they would have achieved natural. But they're not going to maintain their full size. I promise you, Ronnie Coleman can't stay 300 pounds without drugs. But he can probably hold more size than he would have natural. So this idea of a previous cycle years ago of doing one cycle is making them not natural, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Now let's look at each of these guys individually and the different things that people point out with them. Now as far as that, I don't think anyone else is accusing Eric of still using, because let's be realistic, Eric's size, his conditioning, his level of dryness at contest time, I don't think is unobtainable natural. There's just nothing about his physique that screams to me that he's on drugs. Now he gets very, very lean, and a lot of people would use that as suspect, but the guy's almost finished with his PhD in nutrition. I would expect him to be able to get pretty lean. Let's be realistic here. And as far as his strength levels go, he's competed in powerlifting meets, and I think he won one earlier this year, I believe, but I saw the numbers on it. As a not so natural powerlifter, I would crush him. And by that same token, one of my friends who I train with, who I know personally is a lifetime natural, and I think he's been powerlifting about 6 years, I'm pretty sure if I added up their Wilks scores, I think he would edge him out also. I think he would just barely edge him out, and he actually would have beaten him at that meet had he gone to that meet. He would have taken first, Eric would have taken second by a very small margin. So his strength levels don't indicate drug use. They're above average for a natural power lifter, but they're not anywhere near the top tier. There are definitely natural power lifters stronger than him. And there's a hell of a lot of juiced power lifters stronger than him. So that's not an indication. So for anyone who's going to then suggest that that previous one-time super drill cycle for Eric had any lasting effect, I'm not seeing any evidence for it. Now Alberto is one of those to where he's going to get a lot more call-outs because the guy gets so damn dry and conditioned at contest time. And even I almost want to call him out because when I was on drugs, I couldn't obtain that level of conditioning when I was a bodybuilder. But I think it's more of a discipline issue on my end than anything else. And yeah, his conditioning is something for people to be jealous of. But he is a very knowledgeable nutritionist. He gets tons of people in shape, probably both natural and enhanced people, contest shredded. He's got the knowledge and the know-how. And what you're looking at there is just ultra low body fat levels. And I would say he has probably one of the lowest body fat percentages I've ever seen in a bodybuilder, whether natural or enhanced. But by that same token, people have missed some points when I talk about some of this stuff. It is possible to get that lean with diet. It's just hard as fuck. It is extremely difficult, but it can be done without drugs. So what people miss there is that when I say things about guys who get contest ripped on drugs who know what they're doing, they get a full combination of things. They tend to be full, very, very full muscle glycogen supercompensation. They're obviously very, very lean, and they get very dry. It's that three combination of things that you do not see in a true natural. And that's because with naturals you have to compromise sometimes one of those three things to achieve the other or the other two. And without drugs, you're always going to have to compromise. So when you get to someone like Alberto, he's lean as fuck. He comes in dry, but he's not full. He is clearly sacrificing fullness for the other two. And there's the problem when you want to say that he's using drugs to get to that level of conditioning because he looks stringy. And that's no offense to Alberto, because if you are a true natural, you're going to have this problem. You're going to be missing one of those three elements. You're going to have to pick which of the either one or the two that you want, but you're not going to get all three. He's missing one. I mean, he looks stringy. He does look flat when he is ripped. He doesn't have glycogen supercompensation that you would expect from using good drugs. It's just not there. Now, his dryness and everything, if anyone was going to call him in anything, I think trying to call him out of using diuretics would probably be a better choice than trying to call him out for the steroid use, because you're missing an element there. And I'm not saying using diuretics, but he looks suspicious enough and dry enough that I can see it being reasonable for people to call him out. And that's not saying that it's required, but it's suspect for diuretic use. But that is what it is. Now, as far as the other things, step back and let's look at his physique. Yeah, he gets lean. He's a strong guy with a decent amount of muscle mass, but he's not big. And I know that size isn't everything, but if we're going to go by size, you see him in a t-shirt, and he doesn't look like he lifts if he's walking around in regular street clothes. And then we want to talk about the other things. People seem to have, because people are basically morons, they misrepresented the stuff I said in that first video regarding the 3D delts. I guess people don't know what I'm talking about, because I specifically mentioned the 3D delts, the big full delts, upper pecs, and traps. So let's look at what Alberto brings. All right, he has big full delts for his size. Absolutely. But he doesn't have what I would call 3D delts. In fact, I'm going to say that as lean and striated as he is all over his body, where in the hell are his delt striations when he's contest ripped? He has almost no striations in his delt at contest time. So if you're lean enough to have striated glutes and hamstrings, if you're stacking stuff like Masteron, Primobolan, Proviron, things like that into your cutting stack, there's no way you're not going to have deep striated delts. So if he does use drugs, he's not using any of the really good hardening drugs at contest time, or his delts would look completely different. And when I say 3D delts, I don't mean that your delts are big. I specifically mean, and let me put this in plain English because people can't seem to understand this. I mean that you can clearly see all three heads of the delt. You can see the separation between the anterior delt and the lateral head of the delt, and then the lateral head and the posterior head. You can clearly see all three heads. You'll usually see deep striations, again, three-dimensional, not looking around like a balloon, deep striations through all three heads. And you're going to see a lot of veins and vascularity over it. You don't see any of those things in his delts. If we go to his upper chest is actually lagging. And if it's not particularly good, I would say it's one of his weak points. And then we look at the traps. The only thing Alberto has going on with his traps is he's got a really high upper insertion, but there's no fullness, there's no meat there. We know that traps grow like crazy when you start introducing large doses of androgens to the system. And the question I ask is, I've seen the guy deadlift around 600 pounds in videos. If he is deadlifting 600 pounds on gear, where the fuck are his traps? You don't see steroid-using powerlifters deadlifting 600 pounds and have no traps. So if he is using gear to bulk on, in the off-season, I think it's fair to say that either he was born without androgen receptors in his trapezius muscles, or he has the worst trap genetics known to man. So again, one of the common characteristics you would look for is missing. So to say that purely based on his conditioning that he's got to be using a bunch of drugs is just not reasonable from my perspective. As someone who's been in this game a long time with a trained eye who is more than willing to call people out, to me the conditioning, which is impressive, and it makes me personally want to call him out of jealousy, if I step back and look at it objectively, it just isn't enough by itself to make the claim, because that level of conditioning for someone with decent genetics and a lot of knowledge and willpower is obtainable. Now, I'm not telling you guys to try to obtain it, because I think only an insane person, and no offense, Alberto, but I think only an insane person would diet down that lean without injecting any testosterone in their body, because it's going to just destroy your hormone balance. It's going to destroy your sex drive. It's going to destroy your testosterone production. I wouldn't recommend it unless your goal is really and truly to be a top-level natural bodybuilder. But that's enough of that. Hopefully that clarified some of that up. So please quit sending me the links of their previous admissions to using one cycle. I don't think we have tangible evidence to say that these guys are on gear or that they kept any of their gains from those previous cycles. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope this doesn't piss off some of my core followers who really do want me to call out everybody. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.